Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes.
Got you, George.
Okay.
We were waiting for you. Everybody's kind of like, okay,
Okay. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. I call the meeting to order. We're going to start out here as we normally do with business secretary's report.
Yeah, I want to go to. I gotta bring it up. I'm sorry. I'm having issues today. I wasn't preparing myself. I was trying to get the agenda, but anyways, I sent out the minutes from the last meeting. Nobody sent me any kind of notification for correction, so as far as my report, the minutes stay as is. Back to El Presidente.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion? Second?
Second.
All right. Motion and second. All in favor to approve the minutes from last meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. All right. Treasurer's report.
Okay, so for the most part, we've made the transition from Dave to me as the treasurer. We have a checking balance of $389.86 and $50 in cash. There's still a few things in that account. They've got these nice little personal things that when you log on, it still says, "Hi, Dave." So I'm gonna have to work with that. We have one check, and a question I have for the group, I guess, is how many checks do we write a year?
Dave?
I think in 2 years, we've written maybe 4 or 5 at the most.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I'm going to see if they have counter checks, which are basically blank checks. They used to have them in banks in the old days, but I haven't looked recently, where you can just fill in your name and make it a check rather than buy the fancy pre-printed ones, because you have to buy a minimum of 40 checks if you get those. So I'll check into that and let you know what the options are. And see, I got the debit card, so we're all set up there. I have I can make purchases.
Debit card. Wow.
Into the account.
Good.
I'm not right.
That's easier than checks.
Yeah.
So that's it, I think.
You
All right.
got your password and everything changed over, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I was going to do is I think the president and I don't know, at least one other person ought to have. I was going to break apart the logon name and the password and put them on little cards and give them to 2 people. So those people have to get together to be able to log on. That would be my security.
Oh. I don't know. Do we think that is really necessary?
I don't know. It's up to the group there. Yeah.
I mean, we've been working, Dave. We've been working just basically with the treasurer having the access, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually made it complicated a little bit in making the transition because I misunderstood Dave's instructions. And when I tried to put together the password, I missed it. And he had kind of like a couple letters missing here. And then he gave me those letters that go in to fill in the spaces. So, I mean, we could just outright give somebody else the password. Or more than one person should have the password anyway.
Yeah, but you don't want to have to get 2 people to log on.
Right.
That'll really complicate matters, I'm afraid.
Well, other than me, I mean, you were apparently the only one that had the password when you were doing it, right?
But you've got it now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created a new password.
Good.
Well, as far as that, yeah, as far as having the password, someone having a password other than the treasurer, I think is not a bad idea in case of an emergency or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't foresee anything like that, but you never know. But I would think that we'd still want to be able to log on to the site individually without having to have, like you say, two whatever.
Uh-huh.
So
2 verifications.
verification, yeah. So yeah, if you, Bill, if you wanna, like you said, write a little card or something, I'll be responsible for it and have it just in case you're unavailable and we need to do something.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that.
Okay.
I get that.
Is there any other discussion? Any objections to that?
Nope.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So looks like we're done with the business. On to discussions. First up on the agenda, repeater user group training.
There's nobody here from other than us, so
Other than us, so
yeah. So that's a moot issue.
for this meeting, but it is something I think is that's going to need to happen if we can get those that need the training together somehow.
I think that it has to be a semi face-to-face within COVID setting, like over in the field next to the clubhouse. And sit there and have everybody invited over, because I don't think the Zoom thing is going to work.
Really going to work, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
well,
gave it a shot this time, but then again, it was kind of an afterthought for me to invite anybody that needed some additional education, to come to the meeting.
right. Maybe we should maybe try to schedule and do an invitation to all the people that that would apply to, and see what kind of, have them, respond and see what kind of response we'll get before we actually follow through with it and end up us being the ones that are sitting out on the green, which wouldn't be a bad thing anyway if the wizards
No,
did.
it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And my thought is that it would be opened up to the whole community.
Oh, yeah.
That way, if they want to come over and find out, because I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it, but they just don't know what it's about and want to be able to talk to somebody as opposed to, read emails or notes or stuff like that. So that being said, I think it's something that I could put together and put into the Gazette, but we have to look at a time frame, the timeline.
Right.
When this class would be. So if I did something for the April, is it April? Yeah, the April edition, that would mean that our actual session would be in April or in May.
Right. Well, and that gives us a little bit of time and have the possibility of good weather then too. Okay, or is that something you're going to put together, Ray?
I want to propose that we have this training session, introduction training session to disaster communications on our third Friday meeting of April. Yeah, I'm looking for a calendar too.
All right, let's take a look here.
That's the 16th.
Yep.
So it would kind of blend in. The meeting would be actual disaster communications training, and hopefully it would be only for about an hour. And then after that, we could break off and do our monthly, that is the same date as our monthly drill.
Right.
Where we can deploy from there. So it's it'll help the people to learn and also be available for people to know about the system and then move on. So I move that we have a training session on April 16th instead of a meeting.
In lieu of a meeting, okay.
16,
Yeah, April 16th.
it'd be radio training session, or what we're gonna call it.
Yeah, I think, well, Ray will probably come up with a pretty good official title with it.
I just gotta say disaster communications, because that's what it is.
Okay,
It'll encompass our amateur radio and also the repeater system. But everybody will be there to provide the instruction, because there's going to be people that might not want to talk to me, or might be afraid of Dennis, or might be afraid of Nick, but they'll talk to Dave, or they'll talk to
huge.
Bill. So I think the more people there, at least people gravitate to the people that are comfortable with.
Yeah, I would hope that we'd all be able to be available. We again, it's the same time we normally have our third Friday meeting, so we're at the same general time.
And I think the COVID's going to be around anyway, so we're probably, pardon me, we probably have the meeting set up for the Beltway. Oh, what's that called? Greenbelt.
Yeah, the green belt.
Don't wait.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. back to-
And then that way we don't have to go through we don't have to go through trying to get a room or anything like that in the clubhouse, because that's could be a hassle. So
I agree.
we don't have
But I
to.
moved that
Observe.
for the meeting to be retasked as a training session. So do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded.
I think we discussed it pretty good.
Yes, we did. I think so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed.
I'll get working on that.
All right, next item.
I haven't heard anything from Mr. John Otterbeck. I asked Al to go ahead and give him a call, because I tried calling him. I don't know if he's just avoiding or what. So I don't know. His status is unknown.
Okay. That one's done. Number 5. Or-
Susan Larson
Mhm.
sent me an email saying that she doesn't have a definitive time when we can go into the arts and craft room to put a repeater over there. And she's still discussing with Securitas, whether or not Securitas wants our radio equipment, because they don't want to be responsible for it. I think
Okay.
there's some kind of miscommunication going on, so I don't know if I need to talk to Securitas, individually. I'm afraid to do that, because I think people are going to be a little miffed that we went over, because from having conversation with Susan Larson, it seems like Susan Larson wants to get approval from HOA, and I don't see why the HOA has to give us approval to do that. So
Well, yeah.
her understanding is that Securitas is their purview as far as management through the authority of the HOA. And anytime that we are dealing with the protocols for security, that requires, there's the word, requires HOA approval or knowledge of it. So, and we know how much the HOA and any kind of safety protocols or whatever, it's kind of a mess to deal with.
I think we already have that approval because we have given them radios in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a good argument. But again, that's an argument that has to be made with whoever wants to, put their thumb on what we're asking to do.
Whoever wants to argue it.
Well, the thing of it is, I think part of it is they have their established post orders. Their established post orders, and that can change from the security company to security company. So,
Now, the board writes those post orders though.
yeah, but they kind of write them in conjunction with the security company itself. That security company is going to have to agree with what the post orders are.
In reality, if there is an emergency they are probably going to be called to go home.
Oh, yeah, sure. And when we in the past, we've understood that.
And all they'll do is just open the gates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still working on that. So that's not a dead issue. It's just that,
Right.
like I said, it's a communication lag or gap or whatever you want to call it. So I think there needs to be some education brought forth as far as the purpose and why we're asking to have the security company have our radios and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the problem is I know that they're probably really terribly busy, overwhelmed with everything they have to do. So that may be something that gets pushed to the bottom of the pile. George?
Question. What does it take to actually find out what the security company's responsibilities are out here? I know there must have been a contract that had to been signed. Dennis may be able to tell me a little bit also maybe on this. But I'm just curious as to how we would find out really, rather than just a 1 or 2 paragraph message in the front of a Gazette, rather the entire contract, so you could review it, whether it's 4, 5, 6 pages long, 10 pages long, or whatever. Go ahead, Dennis. Do you have any input?
Not a lot. I just have the old document, and it's very poorly written. I think the front of the Gazette probably tells it like it is. Not much has changed. They're basically a observe and report force, and just somebody that's on site to deter anybody from doing something wrong in case they happen to be in that particular part of the community at any particular time. So I don't think there's, might be a very good company, but I don't think their marching orders have really changed that much from what it was before. Like I say, it's pretty much as it said in the Gazette. They observe and report.
Right?
I was just going to say the general orders, postal orders that I saw several pages. I mean, it's like maybe 65, 70 pages, but only a small section apply to us.
Yeah.
So,
And that's not very comprehensive.
no. So to the question of George, how do we get a copy? I mean, I don't personally want to muddle through 80 pages of documents to find out how these guys operate.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Thank you.
You're
maybe we
welcome,
just,
George.
Ray, just keep trying to get a response. Leave it at that right now. Huh?
Yeah, it's just education. Like I said, it's education. I don't think they're thinking that we want to do something that we don't want to do really. All we want is just to have them access to a radio system and hear us if we have, problems.
Right.
And they could be like a conduit. So if they hear somebody on the radio saying, "Hey, I got this wolf that's jumped over the fence and is attacking my dog," they can maybe call up animal control or something like that.
Right.
But that's if they have the wherewithal for that. So
Okay.
are we asking them to enforce anything?
Right. All right. Let's continue on. The next one up is returning to casual, relaxed club meeting settings.
That's the important one. Yes.
All right. How should we proceed? Again, and then where will the meeting take place? Hopefully, well, actually, we could probably just go forward with that, right? As of now.
Well, I remember our last meeting, we had several venues in discussion. We talked about doing it from somebody's home, or doing it from the green belt, or doing it from a local establishment. So
Right.
we need to decide that, because our next meeting is
Yes.
our casual meeting. So
It is. Okay, let's talk. Well, in the past, we've used Cafe Royale. does anybody have any real heartache about going back to Cafe Royale, or is there any suggestion as to another place that we could go?
Well, personally, I'm okay with Cafe Royale. They always seem willing and able to accommodate us no matter what. And it's not as noisy in there as it would typically be like at the Beaumont Cafe or someplace like that, I think, or Grandma's or, but I'm okay with Cafe Royale.
Any other input?
George,
Yeah,
I can see something there, man. It's just kind of like it appeared above your eyebrow there.
what?
George,
Me?
George wants to say something. I know he does.
Say
Put it
it,
out,
George.
George.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, they are rather, as Jack indicated, they are rather accommodating, and they've got the big room, and then they've got the other room back there. As you walk straight in to the left, often there's nobody in there, and when we've gone for coffee, we've had access, about 6 or 7 of us have had access to that room, and we're in there by ourselves. So they do have a way to accommodate us in that regard, as Jack was indicating, unlike maybe some other restaurant that we may be speaking of.
Well, maybe we can request that room when we go, or if we go.
Good idea, absolutely.
And then just one other comment on that. If we could get that room or wherever we sit, maybe we could get, because if this is a pretty typical group that we're going to be meeting with, or the usual guys, maybe be able to request a circular, a round table. It's easier to communicate with everybody at a round table as opposed to, rectangular. Don't you think? I mean, that's just my opinion.
George?
The round tables that they have are in the big room. There's a couple of them in the corners or whatever, but you'd be out there with a bunch of other people there. Whereas that singular room, when you go straight into Cafe Royale to the left of the reception, there's just kind of like one sort of long table that will accommodate, there's actually 2 or 3 that are side by side. A couple of corner booths with a long center table in the middle, and then there's a table right across, a short one there. So that room there would be more ideal in that regards.
What do you guys think about the round table versus rectangular? I mean, does it make that much of a difference?
Well, I think even if we had rectangular tables, if we could, move them around to kind of get it so that we are in a circular sort of a pattern, that should be all right too.
All right, it was just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tom.
Yeah.
Good morning. Sorry.
Quite all right.
Hey, Tom.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, so we were just Tom. We were just talking about our typical first Friday of the month meeting that we usually or have had in the past at a local restaurant and whatnot. So for a breakfast meeting, and we're just discussing going back to that, what we're going to be doing. So as of now, we're talking. We've kind of honed in on going back to Cafe Royale there in Calamasa for that. So if do we need to have a vote on that, or do we just say we're going to do that?
It's up to you, Mr. Presidente.
I don't know that we necessarily need to vote on it, go through that, because I think we all pretty much would like to get back to having that kind of a meeting on the first Friday.
That would be Friday, March 5th.
Correct.
Yeah, if you say so. Let's see. Yeah, that would be Friday, March 5th. Okay, so if we're all in agreement, then our next Friday, March 5th meeting will be held at Cafe Royale.
I'll update the calendar.
Okay, George.
Yes.
you've always had a pretty good relationship with them over there, and from what I understand, you visit them quite a bit. So anyway, if you're going to be over there prior to that, maybe you could hit them up and tell them we'd like to come back, and let them know it's probably going to be 6, 7 of us or so.
Right. Right.
Get their
Not
blessing
problem
and
to do
let
that.
us know.
Sure.
Okay.
Is that at 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Is that 9?
Well,
9
It
o'clock.
has been 8, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't it
we
8
used to
o'clock
meet at
before?
8.
It used to be at
Yeah.
8. Are we wanting to push it to 9 o'clock? Is there any comments, yay or nay?
If it's 8, I won't be there.
Okay. Well, that's a
Me
good
neither.
to have it at 9. I mean, we've moved all of our regular meetings to 9 o'clock, so that seems to, I mean, work out for most everybody, I think.
Oh, 9 o'clock?
Okay, we'll make it 9 o'clock. 9 a.m. All right. Okay.
George has got a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask maybe Dave, maybe, do they have, and it was my understanding talking to one of the directors yesterday the clubhouse is pretty much done. They're just giving a little touch-up paint to the arts and craft room now. All of the front office people have moved into the front office. Do they indicate when they will actually open up the clubhouse? Would we have to go from a purple to a red zone to the next color? Do they have any idea as to how they'll let people come back into the clubhouse?
I understand they're looking at April, but I don't know.
Is that based on any zone color or whatever, or whatever they call?
I don't know, George.
Okay.
Yeah, based on the discussion they had at the board meeting this week, it sounded to me like it was going to be quite a long, slow process of gradually going through those tiers and, having a few people at a time and then more people and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I also think that's the protocol for them cleaning up, because they had to schedule people to clean up after us. If we use a room, the room cannot be used until after it's been cleaned.
Yeah.
So that's another protocol that they got to put together and get staff to do that type of cleaning, which includes the gym. They have to periodically clean the gym equipment, stuff like that. So there's a lot of moving parts to this that I didn't realize till I started talking to Susan. So it kind of made my head just kind of like, I don't want to hear no more type of thing. Because
Yeah.
she had a grocery list of stuff that they need to go through. And it's not like, okay, that's your problem. I don't want to hear it because I don't want to get involved.
Okay. So let's go up to the next one. We have an item to review the bylaws. Has anybody looked at the bylaws?
Yeah, I read them last night.
Oh, cool. Well, that's a positive there.
Typical professor, cramming to the last minute,
No. It beats taking sleeping pills.
It works better, huh?
Yeah.
Dennis?
Yeah, I posted the bylaws on our website if anybody wants to look at them. I'm sure that they do need updating. I can't, to be honest with you, I can't remember why it came up at the last meeting, exactly what.
we were
the issue is.
concerned about the clarification between what the radio club was and what CERT was, and how the radio club participates with CERT and stuff like that, which kind of leads on to another thing that talks about the thing that I sent out, a diagram. I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen here.
Yeah, that's a good segue there. But
Those are colorful diagrams. Right?
yes, they are.
I found out that
Yeah, they were nice.
the people that see color, they tend to be a little bit more attentive. So, do you see the diagram?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
So you've got the world of the amateur radio club, the radio club right here, where my cursor's at. And then you got the world of CERT over here doing their CERT thing. Dennis gave me a pretty good diagram that kind of broke it down even further, but I tried to make it as simple as I could because I don't want to lose too many people. Because when you have a lot of concentric circles and stuff like that, people are starting to wonder what's going on. So,
Well, if I can interrupt for just a second, Ray.
how dare you interrupt me? Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I just have a question, and it just kind of struck me just now as I was looking at that. I've looked at it earlier, but I didn't even realize. Is there a particular reason why the Solera CERT cadre bubble is bigger than the radio bubble?
Oh my God! Here we go. Here we go.
Now, just in jest. I'm sorry. Continue with your presentation.
Oh, my Lord.
I think green means go and yellow means caution. doesn't it?
Caution, yeah.
So what does amber mean?
We're lost.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know. I was trying to go with the conversation that we had before. So what are we doing? Well, we got a group of people that are our radio crew, and they love to do radio stuff.
Mhm.
And you got people that are CERT people that love to do the CERT stuff, but care less about the radio stuff. Okay. But at the same time, we have a lot of CERT guys that love the radio stuff, which just so happens to be part of the radio stuff. So, and that's why we have this intersection right here of the emergency communications team, because we're both part of the radio club and part of CERT. And this emergency communication team is the actual group that's in charge of the emergency communication center. And we've talked about this in the past, where the emergency communication center would be a switchboard of information. And if you notice, the red bubbles are the main concern for us, being our CERT crews that are deployed, and also people that don't want to be CERT, but they have the radios. You know, we'll be talking to them. Our secondary concern is going contact with all the outside agencies, primarily the city of Beaumont, also the county emergency management department, and then finally the larger entity, which is the California Office of Emergency Services. And if you go even further, FEMA, but they don't get involved until way, way later anyways. And then I have all these other ancillary agencies or bodies that might have a concern with the EOC. But if you notice, there's no direct connection. And that was purposely done because we don't want these individuals or these groups involved with the Emergency Communication Center. We don't want to communicate with them. However, I'll switch it over. You go over to the organization, you have what they call a command post, or ECC in our case. Inside the ECC, you have somebody who's doing the scribe. You have somebody actually doing map coordinates, so they plot what's going on. Then you've got a public information officer, which is a key point. A public information officer is going to be addressing the Solera group, the homeowners, the Securitas, unless we get some kind of agreement with Securitas. Then we'll go ahead and put them into the connection. But for the most part, that would be the responsibility of the public information officer. A safety officer is basically concerned about what's going on inside our command post, or excuse me, emergency communication center. And then you have your liaison. Your liaison would be more or less somebody that's talking to City of Beaumont. He's going to be talking to County of Riverside in the state. Rather than having everybody talking, and giving out different information, these individuals, would rely on contacting whoever's in operation and whoever's in planning, whoever's in logistics. And then you got your administrators. Your administrator is going to be your bean counters and people that keep our records and forms and stuff like that. And for the most part, when we do an operation, usually the liaison officer and the administrator are wearing the same hat because they are the ones that have to convey all the stuff that we do over to the state or the city, because that's how the state and city gets funding for our programs. If we don't have any kind of record of what we do given to the state, or the city. They can't cash in on it. So that's the reason why we have an administrator. But without going into the ICS program and without really going into why there was a need for both a radio club and a CERT, and to establish why there are the differences, I came up with this diagram. So, and I said, like I said, Dennis sent me one yesterday that he put together. It even breaks this down a little bit finer, the two bubbles. And his bubbles are a little bit more equal in size, okay? Anyways, that's my presentation, and that's why we're doing the bylaws, because my concern with the bylaws was that it didn't really address the fact that we are actually part of CERT as the emergency communication team. It says that we will do emergency communications, but to what end? Here's a Dennis. Dennis.
Okay. Yes.
Let me just review what the bylaws say, because I think that we can make some fairly significant but simple changes to under purpose. And let me just read the 5 purposes that are currently in the bylaws for the Solera Radio Club. Assure and or enhance the enjoyment of the hobby for club members. That's talking about amateur radio. I think that certainly still applies. Help members develop their radio knowledge, skills, and capabilities. That certainly, I think, still applies. Raise awareness of amateur radio activities outside of the Solera community. I think that applies. The next one, develop an effective Solera emergency communication program. Now, that's something that probably is more of a CERT activity. And I would suggest that we change that to say something to the effect that participate in a emergency communication program or whatever we want to call it, whatever it should be called. And then the last is develop and practice the fundamental skills and protocols needed to participate in amateur radio activities, including emergency response activities, example given, ARIES, RACES, etc. So I think really the crux here is, or the thing is, and we talked about it a little bit last time, is I think the Solera Radio Club, and some members may want to participate, and some members may not, but basically that we may want to change that to say that we will participate in the program as opposed to develop the program, and with the thought that the Solera CERT cadre would develop and administer the program.
I agree. Well said, Dennis.
All
And I
right.
think the verbiage on there as participant would be great. And then you just put in there, we'd be participating as the emergency communications team, which is ancillary part of, or which is a part of the CERT cadre.
Also, maybe would suggest that part of that statement would clarify that the club members that have a desire to participate in the emergency communication team would do that, and not necessarily mean that all
They have to.
members would have to.
Yeah. That's a good point, Nick. I like that.
How does this sound? Leave that statement, develop an effective Solera emergency communication SEC program and participate as an arm of the Solera CERT cadre. Does that capture it?
Well, I just don't think that the Solera Radio Club did, in fact, develop a program, and just like any other program, it's going to change over time, and we're going to modify it. But I don't think that's any longer a Solera Radio Club activity. It's really more of a CERT activity as far as development of it. I think that's why I'm saying participate in it. And yeah, I agree, Nick. Some people in the radio club may not want to participate, and that's fine.
Yes.
And so we need to somehow put language in there that clarifies that.
Right.
Oh, here's the deal, considering we got time constraints. Why don't
Yes.
we all try to look at the, was it number 5 on the bylaws? Each of us try to write something up and then bring it up to the table on the 3rd meeting rather than the casual meeting.
Okay.
So you guys got a whole month to sit there and use your word skills.
Right. All right. Yeah, I would hope that everyone would participate. Maybe we can put everything together that comes from the individuals and come up with something that will work for everyone.
And the whole idea behind this, and the reason I brought it up in the first place, is that I don't want people that have the sole pleasure of playing with radios thinking they have to participate
Right.
with CERT. And I don't want people in CERT have to, participate in the radio stuff, because you got a lot of people that think that, because honestly, everybody that's in our CERT cadre is right here,
Yeah.
and so people assume that all the CERT is just the radio club. So we just need to show that there's a difference between the two, and the people can enjoy one or the other. They don't have to enjoy both to be participant.
Right. Okay. Done that. We did those two. Do we have time to go through the website update?
I don't have much to add. I think what I did is I took the language that Ray put in the last in the current Gazette, I guess, and modified it slightly and put it on the website. I also added a link to the Solera CERT cadre, and also have added the minutes, including the video of the last meeting. The intention is to not put all the meetings in there, but just put the last meeting, the most current meeting, on the website.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't made much change. It still has a link to a page where there's 5 or 6 different training videos that are interesting. I mean, some of them may be outdated, and we might want to add some more, and if anybody ever has any videos that they think are particularly interesting, YouTube or otherwise, I can certainly put them out there. But other than that, I didn't make any major changes to the site.
Okay.
I forgot what I was going to say now. Gosh darn it. Simple minds. Ugh.
Dennis?
Yeah, I would like to go back to Ray's chart. Ray, when the Solera CERT cadre and Solera Radio Club is pointing to the Emergency Communication Center. That's who we would, in line with the chart, that's our primary contact, right?
Right.
And who are they? And how can we test that link between us and them?
Well, that's something we have to develop. To be honest,
Is that Spark, or is that I'm still confused about that.
well, the thing, and then there was a lot of, and that's what confused me too. Spark is not an emergency communication entity. They're a club, just like the Solera Radio Club is a club. However, members within Spark are part of the Races group, part of the Aries group, okay? And something unusual, because if you go to other parts of the country, Aries and Races do not work together well. In fact, they are very adversarial. Different here in Riverside County. In Riverside County, we've got people that are both part of Aries and Races at the same time, okay? Which can be a conflict if you really had a big emergency, okay? For a minor emergency, Aries would be great, something like our blackouts and stuff like that. But if we had a major earthquake, or if we had a gas line blow up, I mean, that would be all hands on deck. And then all of a sudden, all these people that are in both groups have to decide, are they going to play Aries or are they going to play races? So, but to answer your question, as far as it working out, we have to look at it as we're separate from Spark, we're separate from Aries, we're separate from Races, we're our own entity, and we have to develop our own type or way of communicating. Because, be honestly, we're not going to go run out to Banning to help out Banning. Our main concern is here in Solera. So that's just how we should develop this program. This is just an idea. Now it's up to us to develop the program, something that we use and do. Does that make sense?
Well, kind of, but it's still, you know, it's how, I mean, we need to be in contact with somebody out there, okay? And before, I always thought that somebody was gonna set up, you know, the radios at City Hall or someplace, and that we would contact
Here's the
them.
problem. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dennis, but here's the problem I see with that. We've got these guys at Spark, they set up their emergency communications over at Beaumont, they set it up over at the hospital. Who's going to man those? Who's going to run those? And who are they going to be working for? You see? And
Yeah, no, I understand. That's my concern, is I think that we're much better organized than the people outside of of us.
I don't know what to say that.
You know, and how are we with Beaumont? Do we really have somebody at Beaumont now that is really responsive to this whole thing?
Well, I've got, aside from our person that's assigned to us that we never see, Chris, Mercedes. Apparently, she is the information PIO for the department. Okay. I don't have an access to anybody over at the city, because the city, get this, the city thinks that they actually run emergency operations. And I kind of like, well, according to your charter, your setup or your organizational chart, it's the police department. And they kind of look at me and they scratch their goes, no, we take care of that, we do this. So even within our own city, they haven't really ironed out what needs to be done. So the question that you are having, Dennis, is something that a lot of people in the city are having. Who is actually going to be in charge? And unfortunately, it's going to take an event for them to realize that they don't have their ducks in a line, and there's going to be a chaos. There's always going to be chaos, but there's going to be more of a chaos, and it's less of the ability to organize.
I'd prefer organized chaos.
Yeah, organized chaos. And I'm glad that you recognize that we're looking at a little bit more organization, only because we got a group of people that realize, hey, there's a problem. Let's try to fix it, but we're fixing it at our level, at the level of our community of Solera. So maybe if we get organized to the point where other places like Four Seasons will look at us and say, hey, let's do what they're doing, type of thing. Four Seasons got their system going, but it's not as developed for some reason. So they have their radio club, they have their CERT organization, but they're not really organized. So
I know that EMD is not, they don't want, they always defer to the city when you try to talk to them about these kinds of situations. Do you think that's still the case, or would we be better trying to talk to somebody at EMD and trying to, establish a direct contact with them?
Here's the problem. You go to EMD and you notice that they have a contract with City of Indio. So EMD does all the stuff, okay? They have a contract with Palm Desert. They have a contract with Lake Elsinore. They have a contract with all these different cities, okay? And what EMD, why they keep pushing it back off onto the city, is they want the city to start paying their fair share of emergency management. Right now, there's a handshake deal, okay, between Chris and EMD. So whenever Chris needs instructors or he needs somebody to run the program, he pays EMD instructors, not the county. He pays just the individual instructors. Okay. I don't think that's a wise thing to do. I think the city of Beaumont needs to say, we don't have the manpower or the wherewithal to put together an emergency management department. We're going to go ahead and give you a contract. We'll give you a certain amount of funds to do that and just head it off to EMD. But that hasn't happened. And there's politics involved in that. So,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I know,
gentlemen,
like 3 minutes.
yeah, I was going to say, I think at this point, this might be a subject for an agenda item for next meeting,
For the
next
third
regular
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I think what we need to focus on is our own house and not worry too much about what's going on out there until we're at the point where we feel like we've got the best program that we can have here. And then maybe start looking at trying to figure out what they're doing out there and what we should do to kind of fit in.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let's make that an agenda item, right? And at that point, does anybody else have anything they feel needs to be discussed? But we are kind of up against the clock.
Just as if you guys are going to do this drill, make sure you're standing outside because we got better communication when you're outside.
Yep. Okay, if there's no other concerns,
I move to adjourn.
Second that.
second, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, gentlemen, thanks you. Thank you. See you on
See
the
y'all.
air in a minute.
Okay.
All right.